He's a 25-year-old engineer who is making some fantastic financial decisions. Oh, come on, dude. What's up, everyone? Brian here from Ride Your Money Wave. Last week, I interviewed Nolan VanWormer. He's a 25-year-old making some fantastic financial decisions. We're talking Roth IRA max, 401k max, introduction of a side hustle, and even house hacking so that he can become financially independent at a young age. It is rare that I meet and know someone who is taking his financial journey so seriously and really maximizing every opportunity so early in his life. I think that we can all learn from it. So enjoy the video and be sure to leave your favorite decision of his down below in the comments. Take care. All right, so today we are sitting down with Nolan VanWormer. Nolan and I met years and years ago when we volunteered for the same youth leadership group here in Michigan called MyLead, which stands for Michigan Youth Leadership. And that organization has dramatically influenced and has been a positive note in my life. Nolan has taken it over, playing a big role in it right now. But before he was the big man on campus, we'll call you. You were just an ambassador the first time going through it. You've stayed an active participant. Part of being successful is volunteering and networking and meeting other people. And during one of those seminars, it just so happened that you sat in on a financial literacy course that I was teaching. And it was crazy because I remember I said, all right, normally I take about 3 weeks to do this. And instead I only get like an hour. So get out your pencils. We're going to go really quick. We're going to hammer this out. Here's my name. Here's my number. Here's my contact information. If you have any questions, reach out. And I thought it was awesome because years later we met up and grabbed a bite to eat. You were like, just finishing up college, I think, and said, all right, I want to make good decisions. Let's lay this out. So to give our viewers a little bit of a background story, that's how we met. Nolan, you are in an amazing financial place today. Why don't you start off telling us a little bit about you, what you do, how old you are, and then we'll start taking a look at this financial journey that you've laid out for yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Definitely been a fun journey getting here. Starting, I guess we'll start 2011 when I sat in on that workshop as a high school sophomore. So like Brian said, I'm Nolan VanWormer, 24 now, coming up on 25. I graduated from Kettering University with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. I worked for McNaught McKay Electric as a systems engineer. I worked there all through college as a co-op through the Kettering program. Fortunate enough to be hired there after graduation. Upon graduation, I bought a house, got a couple of my roommates from college, continued to live with me full-time afterwards. Awesome financial decision, and being hired with my company following graduation, continuing that on, definitely had a big impact in being able to make that down payment. I started working full-time while still going to school, making that transition, just finished up those last couple classes. Yeah, that's a little bit of background.
So it looks, we got this like window here that's pretty small. Let's call it from 20 to 22. And you are making some amazing financial decisions that are laying some groundwork for your future. You're working full time while also finishing up school. And you take what money that you have, and we can talk a little of the details, but you buy a house and then you turn around and you house hack. And you've been doing that for what it sounds, 4 or 5 years now?
Since December of 17 when we graduated. So
yeah, 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Gotcha.
Still doing it.
Nice.
So I rent out a couple of the bedrooms to some of the co-ops that are still in school, give them a cheap place to live, and get a little bit of the mortgage paid in the process.
So Can we talk specific numbers?
Sure.
Okay. What did you buy the house for?
Bought my house in Warren for 155.
Okay. And what's like now? I'm sure people in California are just screaming at this, going 155 grand. That's like a bathroom to them, right? That's like a parking spot in New York City. But so, what's like the square footage of your house? What are some of the specs?
So it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 6 square foot ranch with an unfinished basement, 2-car garage. It looks like every house on the block. And when GM came to town and they needed people to work in the facilities, it just one house after another. They all look the same in the neighborhood within a few square miles. I lived in a house during school a couple miles away that's a mirror image of my house. So it was weird getting acclimated. So you got to turn right down the hall, not left down the hall.
Gotcha. And so 155 grand. What percent did you put down?
I only put 5% down.
And
I had some closing costs that snuck up on me and some things that were higher than anticipated. So that's where I landed at 5% down, pretty much the minimum.
Okay. Was that through like an FHA or was that through any specific?
No, that's a conventional loan.
Okay.
So,
what interest rate did you get?
locked in at 4% even.
Okay. And that's about right for the timing. That's actually a good rate for 2017. Have you considered refinancing or no?
I'm actually in process. I submitted my application, just kind of waiting for my particular application and my circumstance to land right where I can get in that 3% range. The house has gone up in value quite a bit in the couple of years I've owned it, so hoping to refinance, get a new appraisal, drop a PMI, and have quite a bit more equity in the house.
This is all music to my ears. I'm just smiling like, oh, dude, you're doing it right. This is awesome.
Yep.
So, what's your effective mortgage rate after you rent out your house and do some house hacking?
Affected mortgage rate is utilities.
So you're living for free, huh?
Pretty much.
Oh, man.
When the house is full, I'm pretty much living for free.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
As people come and go, it's not quite as good. But obviously, when I started looking for a house, I wanted to budget for what I could afford on my starting salary. So whether anyone's here or not, I can afford the house. When people are here, take that extra money, put it on the student loans, try and get rid of those as fast as possible.
Nice, man. This is... I shouldn't be surprised because we've already talked about this, but just seeing someone in their youth make really good decisions and just knowing that you have such a long runway in front of you and the fact that you're just knocking off these big debts and creating passive income and things like that, it's awesome. So you average it out. At best, you're living for free. You know, you have utilities, and at worst, maybe it's, 66% of your mortgage or something like that, right? Or 50% at worst, which is still incredible. And then you mentioned a smart money move, and you said, so I'm taking that extra money that I would be paying towards the mortgage, which I'm safe with my job at your starting salary, which isn't the salary that you have now. So you weren't banking on making more money in the future. You're saying, okay, let me buy what I can afford. And even then, probably with the understanding of that you're already going to be investing first before you buy the house. And then you said, all right, now that I have this extra money, I'm going to be putting it down towards student loans. So talk to me a little bit about, because I'm sure a lot of our viewers are in that same boat, how big of a burden are those student loans, and what are you doing to rid them? And how important is it to you, to your lifestyle, to get rid of them?
So Kettering University is a private, small private engineering school. So I signed away a full ride scholarship to Saginaw Valley to attend what I deemed as a better experience for me. So definitely not my brightest money move at the time, but looking back on it, I would do it over and over. So I ended up graduating with about $90,000 in student loan debt. All through school, it's like, all right, after I graduate, 5 years, I can pay it off in 5. after actually graduating and buying a house and looking at what was feasible. Actually just refinanced recently on a 5-year term. So I have 5 years from a couple months ago to pay those off. And my loan payment is about equal to mortgage, taxes, and insurance on the house. So I basically bought a second house, and I want them gone.
Bad, huh?
Whatever it takes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're doing whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the awesome thing. You're saying, hey, listen, essentially either I'm going to have these guys buy the house for me or I'm going to have them pay my student loans for me. But either way, I'm going to be lessening the burden on my own shoulders. And I think for the people that are out there, I would argue that there is a difference in education between Kettering and Saginaw Valley. Like Kettering is a specialty school that only focuses, or I should say highly focuses on engineering. So it's like the equivalent of getting into, I would say, an Ivy League for that field.
Definitely. Especially in Michigan, it definitely has brand recognition. You go outside of Michigan, maybe not so much, but if you're staying within the automotive space or Michigan as a whole, Kettering is a very well-known name.
So let's talk about two things from that Kettering. Number one is, do you feel that has opened doors and led to more money with your salary? And then the second thing, which I'm drawing a blank. I was so excited to think of two of them. I forgot the first. So let's start with that.
Definitely Kettering opened doors for me. So one of the big factors in going to Kettering for me was I wanted to not be a number. I did a lot of things in high school, a lot of leadership activities, and I didn't want to get lost in a big crowd going to like a U of M or something like that. So definitely networked like crazy at Kettering, had a personal relationship with the president of the university. It allowed me to really pad my resume for things, but I ended up not needing that because the company I worked for 3 years while I was in school ended up hiring me full time. But given they hire Kettering co-ops, train them for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, hire them full time, I wouldn't have had that opportunity had I gone elsewhere. And I love what I do. My job's great. And I'm out earning well beyond what the average is. Plus, there's a ton of benefits for working for an employee-owned company. Huge year-end benefits. So,
nice.
Definitely wouldn't be in the situation I'm in if it wasn't for Kettering.
So even with the $90,000 in student loan debt, you're net positive. That was still a very good decision.
Oh, absolutely. I would do it again. And I was a tour guide at Kettering, and I told people that, like, look, it's an expensive school. It's hard. It's not for everybody. But if you can make it through, totally worth it in the end. You'll be leaps and bounds ahead of other students if you decide to come here and work hard and make it.
The second question is, so how old will you be when you finish those student loans?
Not quite 30.
Wow. So even that is still ahead of the 8 ball.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that 30s, 40s are still paying down their student loan debt. So, So let's talk about, so you got two big like green lights going for you. You've got a well-paying job, as well as, your house hacking, which is, freeing up all kinds of cash flow. With that money that you're making at your job, talk to me a little bit about how you're managing that. And I don't want to foreshadow or spoil the, put the lesson in the beginning, but knowing you made really good decisions from the very beginning, and that is reducing any hurdles in the future and is allowing you to really start to ramp up your net worth. So even though you have $90,000, let's say, of student loan debt, your net worth is more than that and projected to be quite significant by the age of 30. So let's talk a little bit about, you're handed this big check, more than you thought. What are you doing with it?
So first thing, always max out the Roth IRA, which I opened freshman year of college. That first paycheck I got as a co-op. Took Brian's advice, went for it, opened it up. No idea what I was doing. Had Brian walk me through it then.
Let's talk about that. I don't even remember that, but I'm so happy and proud of you that hate to tell you, maybe it's because I do help a lot of people with this, so I don't really remember every single person, but
For sure.
so I apologize. But
It's all good.
how different were you than your friends at that point? Like, did you know anyone else that was doing this? Was anyone on your floor, anyone in your co-op like, oh yeah, I got a Roth IRA too?
A couple people. So I'm lucky to have friends that are also very financially responsible. Um, like some of the guys that are living with me are debt free. So you're not enticed to make poor decisions when everyone's kind of, let's make the right moves, saving for retirement, doing all those things, which when you're set up like that, it's a lot easier to, yeah, let's go take a weekend trip to wherever. And it's not a big deal. You don't have to think twice and pinch pennies for it because you were set up ahead of time. But at that time, it was kind of, I took a leap and didn't really know what I was doing. And like, I want to do this, you know. Brian's talking about $100,000 in the stock market by the time he's 30. And Brad at the time, who did that session with you, wants to retire in Italy in a villa at like 45. That sounds like a pretty good life. These guys got it figured out. Take that first step, and just kind of went for it. And then throughout college, having to pay for an apartment during work term and whatnot, didn't have a ton of money to contribute, but that little bit I put in grew a little bit at a time. And then graduation hits, and I'm going to max it out, and that's the first thing that comes out of the budget.
Gotcha. I got to imagine that to use your words, what little you had this option. It's like, well, I could go out to the movies, I could order some pizza, but instead you sacrificed and you put that money into your Roth IRA for your future. The level of pride, and I don't think people really understand this until they do it, but there's so much like pride that you take and feel when you make that sacrifice, because you're going, I'm putting my future needs in front of my current wants. And knowing like that you're buying into the system, that you're setting yourself up for future success, you're setting yourself up for future abundance of consumption if you really want it, or use that money for, different, purposes. But do you remember, did you have that feeling? And if so, can you expand on it a little bit? Or am I just the weird one? Where like,
less so then, more so now. Looking back at some of the good decisions I made and what it set me up for now, that being an engineer, live in spreadsheets, I took what I'm making now. Just if I continue to make what I make now for the next 30 years, what's my net worth going to look like? When I'm going to pay off my house? When I'm going to pay off student loans? When I'm going to be a millionaire? When all these things, just put it all in a spreadsheet. And to sit here a couple months from being 25 and look at, $100,000 net worth now at 30, student loans paid off, $100,000 in the stock market, not quite to $500,000 net worth. And then 5 years after that, being a millionaire at 35, house paid off, debt free entirely, money in the stock market, life is good. I appreciate the things that I did then and the people that gave me advice to get to where I am and where I'm going to be.
You like gloss over it, but I just want to reiterate. So you're on track, 30 years old, student loans paid off, 500 grand net worth, and then 30,
hopefully,
and then 35 completely debt free with $1 million net worth, huh? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Now, and if you think about it, your net worth of $1 million, a lot of people's net worth is tied up in their house. But if you bought yours for 155, and let's say 10 years from now, Warren appreciates and it's going to be, let's say 250, that's still a lot less percentage wise than the average Joe. So you have this opportunity, if you really wanted to, retire early because your assets are more liquid than, say, tied up in $500,000 in a house.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, man.
So, and then one of your suggestions, I always start that side hustle. So all of those numbers, all those projections assume the side hustle I started end of last year doesn't make me any money, and it's just a hobby.
Oh,
So,
you are sitting so pretty. That is incredible, man. So let's talk about that. What's the side hustle for you, and how's that going?
it's going pretty well. So I started NV Engineering. So a buddy of mine came up with the idea. My initials NV. So incorporated that into the logo. Incorporate my career as an engineer. But I've always been a woodworker. 7 or 8 years old, out in the garage with hand tools, putting this and that together. So I wanted to turn that into a hobby, and been doing that ever since. All through college, high school. But I can make some pretty cool stuff. I could probably make some money doing this. People ask me, can you build me a cornhole board? Can you make this? Can you make that? Sure. So why not grow that into a bigger market? I did a lot of, made a maker space at Kettering. So I made some t-shirts, some decals, vinyl stuff. So, bought a bunch of tools and bought a vinyl cutter and a heat press and make t-shirts and cutting boards and cornhole boards and signs and knickknacks. And pretty much if you can find it on Etsy, I can probably make it. And if I can't make it because I don't have the tools, I go buy those tools and just grow my offering. Got a website set up. So
That's awesome, man. You said you started that last year?
late last year.
Gotcha.
So about October 2019, got all the paperwork formal and I got that process started. Didn't want to advertise anything before Christmas because I totally wasn't ready to take an order then. And then my lead season, and I do a lot with First Robotics, so that ties up first half of the year. So just now getting rolling into it now that that whole season has passed. This COVID time was actually great for me to be home and have time to get everything organized and get set up and have a little extra time to take care of that rather than going out on weekends and whatnot.
Sure. Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny, COVID was the emptying of the bucket of excuses for me. Where it's like, dude, you're home 24 hours a day now. Weddings are canceled. Teaching is easy and online, not as demanding as it was. And so you have no excuse to finally set up a YouTube channel and start talking about money. And it's like, okay. Because sometimes it can be daunting to start that business, or it can be scary to have that first customer, to really put yourself out there and go, oh my God, I there's so many aspects to running a business that I don't think people really realize. You have to be good at your engineering, but you also have to be good at social media. You have to be an accountant. You have to be good at marketing. You're the HR, you're the customer service rep. It's like, there's all kinds of things that you're just constantly juggling.
Yeah. Thankfully, I have some help on the social media side because I am so out of touch with all of that. My girlfriend takes care of all of that, takes good pictures of all my stuff. I'm like, here, I finished a project. Can you go take a picture of this and post it? Something new every day. I'm like, oh, hey, that's really cool. I would have never thought of that. So
that's awesome. We call that labor specialization. Yeah, my wife will, a lot of times she's like, Brian, you need to post today. I'm like, oh, sure. Okay, hold on, and it's just, yeah, it's pretty low on my my list of priorities. So have you broken even? Have you made any money? Is that a pretty capital intensive business to start up?
I made it one. So woodworking, buying tools, having the ability to make a lot of cool stuff comes at a price to get quality tools.
Sure.
So I bought a CNC machine. So being able to cut out different things and add depth to signs. You go to the store, you look like something's painted or screen printed, something like that. The way I do it, it's all carved. So your letters and everything has depth and detail to it. That sets you back some. Buying a nice table saw, buying a lot of woodworking equipment. Bought a vinyl cutter. Actually, just recently bought a printer to print on vinyl. We're doing banners and multicolored decals. The sports stickers all the parents have from band and football and basketball and all those things. Living in Metro Detroit, how many schools are there? If I can get one of them to let me print their stickers for their sports teams, $5 a sticker adds up real fast.
Yeah. So. Dude, that's where you got to start spending some time. Get your foot in in the door with a community, and they won't think twice about where to go.
Yep. So I'm still, I've earned about 10% of what I spent. So I'm still pretty far away from being even.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, the biggest part of your growth is going to be word of mouth, and when people go, "Oh, I know a guy," and you don't even have to advertise, you know?
And that's been about 2 months of just getting the website launched, starting to really push stuff on Facebook. So I'm not worried about it being an actual return at some point.
Yeah.
Definitely going to get there.
Anyone who runs a side hustle, and this truly goes, beyond our conversation, but anyone that thinks that they're going to be doing a side hustle, it's like, listen, I personally think don't expect to make any noticeable money for like 3 years. Like, you have to go into it for the love of it. And you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Your mistakes are going to be costly. As you're like shaking your head, you're like, oh, that Brazilian hardwood, you're off. For you, it's even worse. You're off by 1/4 of an inch and you can't use it.
Oh, yeah. I found out I was late in the garage last night working on a cutting board, doing a glue up, and wondering why none of my stuff fits together, and got out the square and measuring stuff. My table saw is out of square by like a 1/16 of an inch over a foot, and none of the glue up fits. So just trying to avoid having a total meltdown. Like, all right, not fixing the table saw now. I got to get this glued up. I got to get this done. What other tools do I have here? How can I fix this? Yeah, it was almost very expensive.
What was
evening.
If you had to scrap that material, what would it cost?
$75 in wood, because I had purple heart, walnut, maple, all cut down.
That hurts.
If I had to go replace all of that, if I had scrap pieces cut off from other projects I was putting together, I'd have to go all new boards and totally change the layout of everything.
Plus your time.
Oh
yeah. Start a business, they say. It'll be fun, they say, until you hit stuff like that.
But once it's done and sand in, you put that coat of oil on there and all the wood grain pops, it's so worth all the time.
And the pride.
I love doing it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's when you give something that you make away, you're really, at least for me, I feel like I'm connected to that person. To them it's a cutting board, but you're like, no. I have memories ingrained in this board that I'm giving you. And the same is true. I mean, I'll take a photo. I remember years later, someone will, you'll bump into them and say, oh my God, I love that one. And it's just like, bam. And I know exactly which one. I can describe it. I know what happened. I know where I was, and they're like, oh my God. You're like, oh yeah, listen, I created that thing. That's part of me that you're enjoying. Like, of course I'm going to remember it. So that's interesting. But yeah, I think 3 years is because when you're starting off too, like you're doing, every penny you make should really just get poured back into the business, to have it grow exponentially faster.
Yeah, I kind of did the opposite. I had an opportunity. The financial institution I chose, I ended up going with Chase to set up all my business accounts. They gave me a credit card with a way higher limit than I probably should have had, at 0% for a year. So, all right, I got all this money to spend for a year. And so I was trying to keep up and take some out of my savings and put it in the business savings and put it in a high interest savings account. So rather than just paying off that credit card bill, I was getting 1% on all that money.
Yeah, make a little. Sure.
Yeah. So a couple $100 over a year, and that's another project's worth of wood that goes straight to profit instead of having to pay for that. Use your money to make money.
Yeah. Listen, I did that when I started. I expanded the business into video for a while there. And it was like, okay, well, this is 20 grand in expenditures that I don't feel like paying right now in the off season, in the winter when I'm not making anything. So it's like, I did the same thing. I opened up an account, a credit card. I think it was 18 months of 0% back then. And I said, okay, and as money was coming in, then I think what I actually did, I was tempted to pay it off as money was coming in, but I did what you did, which was I kept a separate account where I just kept adding to it. And then like 17 months and like 28 days, I like electronically transferred everything over so I could max out the amount of interest that I was earning during that time period. And you know what? Some people would say that's crazy or aggressive or whatever, but I think if you care about your pennies and you show money the respect that it deserves and that you give it, it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to go through all this and it's going to save me $100. It's, I care about my money enough that if I do it now and it saves me 100, there's going to be, and I understand the system, there's going to be an opportunity later on where this is going to save me 10,000. And I think that's really what is so important about making good decisions in your youth and understanding the way that money works in your youth is, yeah, it'll get you incrementally ahead just a little bit at the age of 23, but you make that same decision when you're 53, and now suddenly you got a free vacation in your back pocket.
I think a lot of it comes from just the engineer mindset I have about everything. It's take the emotion out of everything. If I can't prove it in a spreadsheet, it's not real.
Oh, your poor girlfriend.
Yeah, she's a preschool teacher, so definitely.
So she lives in the world of just unicorns and emotions and bubbles and fun, and then you're just like cold and stoic. Like, listen, algebra doesn't lie.
Pretty much.
Oh, that's awesome. So, if you were to be able to give advice back to either your former 16-year-old self or just anyone who's listening, because you are positioned incredibly well, in part due to the amazing decisions you made in your youth and the sacrifices that you front loaded, but in part also to the high salary that you're earning. You bring those two things together, and the fact that you don't have a leaky boat, you know, you're not like spending it as fast as it's coming in. What advice would you give someone, who's on their financial journey?
And to Brian, of course. Watch the Ride Your Money Wave YouTube channel.
Oh, you're too kind.
For all the good stuff yeah. But in all seriousness, do as much research as you can. If books are your thing, which they're definitely not my thing, you've recommended book after book after book, and it's not for me. YouTube channels, listen to Dave Ramsey, listen to Brian, listen to anybody. Just get as many different perspectives and find what works for you. Different styles don't always work, but a lot of it just comes down to be disciplined. Constantly evaluate your goals. For me, I could have saved a lot more during college with the money I was making with my half-year job, but I wanted to enjoy life. So kind of finding that balance between enjoying what you're doing and being smart with your money. There's a lot of things you can do that bring you a lot of joy, but don't have to cost as much. Discipline and constantly evaluating your goals really go a long way.
I think the discipline is huge. Everyone lacks that. I'm definitely lacking discipline when it comes to eating during COVID. It's like I'm seeing if I lose structure in my day. I mean, I used to eat lunch at 10:33 every day because that's when prep started. Once I lose structure, the discipline is starting to fall apart. And so luckily, I'm like you, where I like numbers. So discipline when it comes to finances it's just second nature. Like saying no to myself, even though I can afford it, still feels good, But I think what's interesting too is saying like, hey, reading isn't your thing. And the other day I was scrolling through Facebook. It was a financial community, and this person had this list of books that they wanted to read with check marks next to it. And it was just like, it was like 30 books deep. And they even said like, oh, I just started my financial independence journey 8 months ago, and this is what I've read so far. And it was an impressive list of what they had already read. And I was thinking like, and all these people listed other books afterwards. And I thought, look, at some point, A, it's very repetitive, but B, you can almost like have paralysis, like analysis paralysis. I mean, you're reading so much that you're probably not actually implementing any of this, or you're not actually doing something to increase your income or start a side hustle like you've done or whatever. It's like reading is only good up to a certain point. And sometimes when I read, I'll take a few months off of reading anything financial or reading anything business. And sometimes I'll just pick up a book of finance specifically just to say, okay, let me like nourish those roots. Let me like fertilize the financial soil a little bit and just remind myself of these concepts and what's important and stuff like that. But I think sometimes people can almost read, and I'm sure this could get quoted and taken out of context, but sometimes they read too much and because they don't do enough. And so find your medium, whether it's podcasts, whether it's YouTube, whether it's reading, whether it's audiobooks, you know, even if it's, hey, I hate all those things, but I'm going to take this guy out to lunch and pick his brain. That's probably the most efficient use of an hour and a half of your time. And it may cost you $50. That is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on who you take out, because they're going to say, open up a Roth, do it here, give me a call, I'll help you, boom, 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 boom. And it's like, dude, that's a life-changing moment right there.
Yep. Networking goes a really long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So I'll ask you one more question, then I'll let you go because I'm sure you've got orders to fulfill and spreadsheets to look at. But
for sure.
You've got all these goals. You're knocking down goals at 25. You've got goals for 30. You've got huge goals for 35. What ultimately is the life goal?
It's a really great question. I talk about reevaluating goals all the time. I think that's one thing that a lot of people my age in my position, you know, successful in high school, do all the clubs, involved in everything, go to college, and it's really structured on how to succeed. Go to class, do well in class, join the orgs, be the president of those orgs. Once you hit graduation, it's really not clear how to be successful. There's not one track to success. So really the goals start a lot shorter term, and a lot of people have really long-term goals. For me, it's what we talked about, 20, 25, 35. After that, you know, moving out of this house and either using this house as a down payment on the next house, something with a much bigger garage for a much bigger workshop. Living on a lake would be awesome. You know, grew up going up north to the lake and going out boating. Kind of being able to do some of those things that I loved growing up as a kid, rather than relying on other people to provide those experiences, being able to provide those experiences for others. So I guess a lot of it stems from once I get to that point of total debt-free financial independence, just set up to do whatever it is I want to do at that time, which I don't know what it is yet. Just getting to that point, and we'll see what happens.
I think there's two things that kind of come to mind when you're talking about this. One is you don't need a garage, dude. You need like a pole barn. Like some guys have a man cave. You have like a man barn with like, you know, 220 and air conditioning. And I mean, I can just imagine this workshop just being immaculately beautiful. But the second thing is really what you're talking about. And I give you a lot of credit because a lot of young people just want to acquire. And your answer is incredibly mature in the sense that you're saying, I want to live a life where my money and my time and my values are all in line. And you may have even picked up on it where you want to give back to others and say, hey, so I can allow others to get into woodworking, or I can help them with this or that, or, you know, and that's really where it's at. I mean, to be able to watch someone else grow in their career, in their life, it's such an amazing blessing. And I know neither of us have kids, so that's about as close as we can get right now. So,
Yeah,
so
for
tell you
sure.
what, we'll wrap this up. Why don't you go ahead and plug your engineering, NV engineering, as well as some of the viewers. Why don't you give them a little bit of a rundown of what my lead is as well?
All right. Yeah, first thing first, NV Engineering. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or nvengineering.com. I'm sure Brian will be happy to put a link in the description below. I've always wanted to say that. And my lead, it's a youth leadership conference for high school sophomores. Any high school in the state of Michigan is eligible to nominate one student for free. So if you're watching this, you know somebody that's a sophomore in high school or going to be a sophomore next year, and they've never heard of it, their school doesn't send anybody, check out mylead.org. There's a questions page there. Highly encourage it. Where I've met some of my best friends that I've known for a decade now. It's wild to think that it's been 10 years of my lead for me. Awesome experience, changes lives every year. We're approaching the 500 students a year mark. We were just under that last year. And then this year with COVID, we had to cancel our conferences, but I was able to be a part of the team that brought digital conferences or digital virtual summit. We ended up calling it a virtual summit, which still had a great turnout, a lot of really positive feedback on the whole experience, finding a way to connect people. So it's about motivating the youth in Michigan to make an impact on their community through leadership and service. Amazing organization. If you want a charity you want to donate to, it's an awesome organization. Proud to be a part of.
Or even if you shop on Amazon, which we all do,
Yeah.
smile.amazon.com, and you can pick my lead, Michigan Youth Leadership. And anything you buy on Amazon, you guys get a small cut, and doesn't cost you anything, but it certainly helps them out as well. And I think one of the best kind of taglines that you've had over the years is you teach students how to think, not what to think. And I especially think in this political and cultural arena that we're in now, that is super, super important, is to encourage people to think independently and, find out the data and the facts. So, well, Nolan, thank you so much for coming on. It's been awesome to watch you grow in your financial journey over the years. And I remember very vividly going to D'Amato's in downtown Royal Oak and helping you set up what your next money moves were. And I remember just walking away going, that guy gets it. And knowing that you cared about your money and your decisions, and you came prepared with like numbers, and I don't think you had spreadsheets, but I mean, you had it down pat. And I just remember going like, yep, this is the fork in the road, and he picked the right path. And so to see where it has gone so quickly, and to know that you're making these great financial decisions up front, you're taking your sacrifices up front, you're house hacking, you're paying down your debts aggressively, you're investing, you've got a great 401k plan that you're maxing out as well with, options in your company. It's like, take these sacrifices now while you're young. And man, the fact that you are crossing a finish line that people dream of at 35, I think is just a testament to the decisions that you've made. So congratulations, man.
Thanks, Brian. It's been great to talk about it and to see it come full circle over, a 10-year period. First learning about how to handle money. It's not a conversation I had ever thought about having, and then see where it's taken me now, and to see what the next 10 years are going to bring, and getting to that total debt-free mark.
Yeah, I think that's what's interesting, and that's kind of where I'm at, where you go, okay, I hit that one, I hit that goal, and then you start a new goal, and you go, I hit that goal, and then it comes to the point where you know that as long as you get like 6% return, that you're going to be fine. You're going to be more than fine. You can even get a 4% return because you save so much so young, and you just go, okay, well, statistically, I know that's going to happen. And so it starts to actually change. Your relationship with money starts to change, where you start and you already have insight into that, going, well, how can it enhance my life? How can I live a better life to help more people and live a life where my time is directly correlated with the things that I value? And yeah, it's interesting. It'll be fun. The crazy thing is you're probably going to get there before I will. My house was a little bit more than 155, but that's what happens when you get married. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right. Well, Nolan, thanks again for coming on. And, you know, write down 5 years from now, we'll have you back at 30 and
All right.
we'll see where you're at and you can give us the update.
Yeah, sounds good. Definitely interested in doing that. So have a good one, Brian.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.